The Inov8 Trailfly, the brand's ultimate everyday shoe for hard ground trails and the centerpiece for their updated trail lineup. Sounds great on paper, but how does it actually work out there on the trails? I've been very interested in this shoe, the Inov8 Trailfly, for quite a long time. I first saw this shoe last spring and I immediately was like, I want to try this shoe. But being where I'm located, it's just nearly impossible to find a pair of these, mostly to try them on and find out what my right size actually is. But when the brand reached out to me about their new Roadfly model, I have a review of that shoe already. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in it. I actually asked about the Trailfly too, because there is a relationship between the Roadfly and the Trailfly. The Roadfly really grew out of this shoe, but this shoe was really the first shoe of Inov8's updated trail line. They're really basing a lot of their technologies and where they're going and organizing the lineup around this shoe. So I was really curious how this shoe actually ran because it seemed like it's everything I want in a trail shoe. And starting with the specs of this shoe, we have 29 mil of foam in the heel, 23 mil of foam in the forefoot, and that's the full stack height. That's the insole, the midsole foam, and the lugged full rubber outsole coverage. And that gives you a 6 mil drop. I would say the real feel of this shoe is probably 4 to 6 mil. It does not feel really extreme to me. Now, according to Inov8, the weight of this shoe is 280 grams or 9.87 ounces, and that's their blended across all sizes measurement. Again, they weigh their shoes and spec them different than really everyone else. But I found in the pair that they actually sent me for review that the weights of my left and right shoe are really kind of close to that, 279 grams and 281 grams. And like the Roadfly, I would actually describe the ride of this shoe as dense, cushion dense. And I think for the trail purpose of this shoe, it's actually one of the best combinations that I could think of. Starting with the upper on this shoe, we have a one-piece air mesh upper, which is very breathable, very nice. But what's around it and on top of it, which really contains and gives this upper its structure, is what they're calling a thick met cradle layer. Now this does a bunch of things. In the toe area, this is the toe cap. This is what's really protecting the toe from rock damage. In the midfoot, this is going up the eyelet chain and helping to bring the lace tension into the heel to really lock your heel into the shoe. And then around the base of the entire shoe, you're getting just additional rock protection. So it's a really nice solution where you're getting really breathable, lightweight material that drains really well with moisture where you need it. And you're getting a lot of protection and coverage where you need that as well. It's a very simple but very well thought out and considered upper design. From a fit standpoint, there's a few things to talk about here. Now, this shoe is Inov8's anatomical last, which you can really see from the bottom of the shoe. You can see how this is shaped like a foot. It's got a wide toe box or a natural shaped toe box, allows your big toe to be straight and there's room for your toes. But it swoops in the midfoot in the heel to really lock down the midfoot and heel and give you sort of the best of both worlds. Room in the toe and good lockdown with good heel support. And I think it works really well. Now, I went into all of the anatomical last information in my Roadfly review. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see that. I go into a lot more detail there. But this and the Roadfly share essentially the same last. But the difference between the two shoes is that even though this is the standard width, it fits much more narrow or much more snug across the forefoot and really the whole foot, but especially in the forefoot than the Roadfly. Now for a trail shoe, I actually prefer that because I want a trail shoe to feel like it's much more part of my foot. I don't want any slop in the system. So from a natural shaped toe box, I am still getting room for my toes to splay in here, but there's less room. My big toe is still straight, and that's really the thing I'm most interested in. But my other toes are maybe pushed in a little bit more. And this again is just a much more confining fit, which again, I think works really well for a trail shoe. But if you do have a wide foot, I would maybe start with the wide last of this shoe. And this comes in a standard width and a wide last. And I would maybe start there because this one is sort of a middle ground between a traditional natural shaped or wide toe box shoe and a more traditional normal running shoe. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds, But again, it allows that big toe to be straight, which is really the thing that you're really after here. Another thing to note with this shoe is the actual sizing. Now, I went true to size with this. This is a US men's size 9, which is my standard size across really every shoe out there. But, and this is something I've found with anatomical or natural shaped shoes, this shoe runs just a little bit short, to the point where when I first put this shoe on and I'm walking in the shoe, like I'm walking to go start my run, I can feel my big toe just loosely, kind of rubbing the toe bumper of this shoe inside. But once I'm on the run, I don't feel that. It's completely gone. And I've done a lot of different runs in this, a lot of different terrain. And no matter where I'm striking, going up or down, I've never had any toe problems. I've never felt my toe bumping into the front of the shoe. But for whatever reason, when I first walk in this shoe, I do feel the front of the shoe. And if I wore this shoe casually, I would probably be a little bit more annoyed by that. So my recommendation is maybe to start true to size, but you may want to consider sizing up half a size, which would be my advice for any kind of natural shaped shoe in the first place. One last thing to note about the fit of this shoe, and it's in the heel counter of this shoe. Now, the heel counter in this shoe took me a little bit to get used to. It took a couple runs to get used to, because it's got kind of two parts. It's got this lower part, which is very stout, very stiff, and there is a pocket in the midsole back here that cradles the heel. But the top part of the heel counter is very soft. As you can see, I can really push that over. And you get this feeling kind of midway through your heel that there's something tight here and something loose here. It never caused me any issues. I never had any heel lift, but it is something to be aware of. It did feel a little strange for a couple runs, and I think it went away once the shoes sort of softened up and started to flex with my foot a lot more. This now really wraps around that, and this softer section really cradles the end of my heel, so I'm getting no heel problems. But if you're a runner who has heel lift issues for many shoes, or you have very sensitive heels, this one may be one that you're going to need to consider and probably play around a bit with lacing. The good thing is there's lots of lacing options here, so you'll be able to get the correct lockdown, but it's just something to keep in mind with this shoe. Moving to the midsole of this shoe, we have a standard EVA, which the brand calls their PowerFlow Pro foam. And I described it as a dense ride, and it is a dense ride. It's a cushioned ride, but a dense ride. And again, for trail, that's what I really want. Now, what's really amazing is we have 18 mil of this foam in the heel and 12 mil in the forefoot. Again, the stack height is higher, but that's including the insole and the outsole of the shoe. So there's a very minimal amount of foam in this shoe, which gives you a lot of really nice ground feel. Now, part of what makes this shoe feel a little bit more substantial underfoot is that there is actually a rock plate in this shoe, and it's a flexible nylon rock plate. It's not a film, but it's not a rigid rock plate either. And it runs from the heel to the toe, right below the midsole and above the outsole. So it kind of sits there and just allows the shoe to flex very naturally, but it is giving you additional rock protection. And you do feel that on trail where you're at off angles and you're feeling rocks, push into the shoe. It really does protect you, but it's not like a rigid rock plate where you're not be able to flex the shoe or it creates dead spots in the shoe. This shoe has just a very nice ride that works very well for harder packed surfaces and a lot of rock surfaces, which is something I have a lot to run on here in Taiwan. And it's just, to me, the optimal type of cushioning for the terrain that I actually run. And moving to the outsole of this shoe, we have a full rubber coverage outsole. And this is the brand's graphene infused rubber outsole. It's a very durable material. Now, where I run here in Taipei, Taiwan, it's really rocky, up and down. It goes from wet mud into dry rock and stone faces, back to wet mud. And the only outsole that has really worked for me, that hasn't given me, really bad grip, is Vibra Mega Grip Light Base. But I have to say that this may work a little bit better, especially for the stone sections. Now, the compound just feels like it sticks like glue to any kind of stone, even wet stone. It's really kind of amazing. If you've ever done rock climbing and you feel that compound of rock climbing shoes and how that sticks to the stone, this is very similar. And that makes sense because this is the brand's hard surface, really rocky surface shoe. This is not made for, the fells and all the stuff that Inov8 is known for. This is made for harder surfaces. But it will do well in muddy surfaces. And I do have a lot of mud here in Taipei, Taiwan as well. And the outsole pattern, as you can see, is very anatomical to the foot, and it really works in different zones. You have this great section under the big toe, which allows you to really dig in and get a lot of grip. The ball of the foot has a lot of big lugs. You have a lot in the midfoot, and the heel is really great when you're heel striking, breaking down really technical descents. Overall, it's just a great outsole that with the 4 mil lugs on this and the additional couple mil of rubber on top of that, it gives a ton of protection, but as you see, there's flex grooves in here, so it definitely gives a lot of flex in this as well. I have a lot of ground feel in this shoe, but I have the utmost confidence in really any type of terrain that I've been running in this shoe because of this outsole. It is very good. But what about the ride of the shoe? I've already sort of implied that's a very good ride, but the brand really positions this as their everyday cushion shoe for really any type of distance. Long, races, runs, kind of everything in between. This is sort of their do anything, go anywhere shoe. Even in very muddy conditions, this shoe will hold its own. And I have found that very true here in the conditions that I've been running in. Now, I've been really testing this shoe through a very wet period here in Taipei. We've had actually 2 typhoons come through that have dropped a lot of moisture onto the trails. So this shoe has really been put through the grinder as far as just really cakey, thick mud, going to stone, and everything sort of in between. That's really what I have to run here. And it has excelled my expectations. It's a shoe that I feel very confident to put on and really just go up to the trails and really do anything in. And it's got that all-day comfort where I feel like it could allow me to really do that all day if I wanted. It's not a shoe that I need to baby. It's not a shoe that I need to kind of say, well, that's too technical or that's going to be too muddy. Let's avoid that. I can just plow through really anything in this shoe, and it's really surprised me just how well it does with everything. It truly is an all-arounder, and it's one that I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this winter when the trails are very wet, very muddy, and often very slick. This is going to be my go-to trail shoe for the next few months because the conditions are just really optimal for what this shoe offers. Now, there is some road running that I do within my trail group, and this shoe has done road running very well, though I think the Roadfly is a better road shoe. But these wider lugs here give enough surface area where I don't really feel the lugs. I don't really like road running in trail shoes because you always feel the lugs. But again, this is flat and wide enough that you're not really getting that. And as I said in the outsole section, the grip of this shoe on stone, specifically trails like this, is just exceptional. It feels like I'm glued to that stone. Now this stone I think is sandstone or limestone. And that kind of stone, even if it's wet, this shoe just sticks to it. And that's really what this shoe is designed to do. And it's really exceptional because I have a lot of that type of running in my trail group. So this is a shoe that I'm going to depend on. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in and, really abusing and really putting through anything that I really can see on the trail. And the other thing is this is an ivory colorway. I like white or ivory shoes, even for trail. And I have about 34 kilometer of most of that being very muddy. And as you can see, this shoe cleans up really nicely. I've looked down at this shoe when I've been out on the trail and it's just been caked in mud and it's been red and it looks awful. And then I come home and I clean it and it cleans just fine. So if you're worried about this colorway specifically, which I think is probably the best looking colorway, it cleans up really nicely. So again, this is just going to be my everyday go-to do anything shoe that I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time in the coming months. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.